And welcome everybody to another edition of the Brody File on the road here in New Hampshire. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Are you kidding me? They're on top of the political world, not just here in New Hampshire, but boy, they are making waves across the country. We're going to have a complete report in a moment, but can I just say something for a second? Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, I mean, what in the world is going on? I mean, like Lindsay Lohan now for Secretary of State? I don't know. It could happen. All right, maybe it won't. Caitlin Burke with more from New Hampshire.
Republican Donald Trump and Democrat Bernie Sanders crushed their competition in New Hampshire, leaving no question that voters in the Granite State are angry at Washington and worried about the economy.
We are going to make America so great again, maybe greater than ever before.
Together, we have sent the message that will echo from Wall Street to Washington.
While the wins were expected, the big story coming out of New Hampshire on the Republican side was the tight race for the places behind Donald Trump. Kasich finished a clear second, with Cruz, Bush, and Rubio close behind. That could end up prolonging the Republican nominating contest as voters decide between the different candidates.
If you don't have a seatbelt, go get one. We're going to shake this country from top to bottom.
You all have reset the race, and for that I am really grateful.
Meanwhile, Clinton trying to look at her loss in New Hampshire positively, saying the outcome was expected, but the future looks good.
Now we take this campaign to the entire country. We are going to fight for every vote in every state.
But as the candidates now begin a battle for the South, some analysts say Sanders may not be as easy to shake off as Clinton predicts, especially if he can close his polling gap in South Carolina and beyond. On the Republican side, the top questions moving forward: who moves on to South Carolina, who drops out now, and who becomes the primary alternative to Donald Trump.
And it's Caitlin Burke here on the Brody File. All right, look, Donald Trump and what he has done up here, simply remarkable. Analysis in a moment, but first from the winner.
We are going to make America great again. We have to thank the candidates because they really ran. We have some very talented people. And to be victorious against some of these people, even if it's for 1 week, but believe me, it's going to be for many weeks, okay? But they really are. They're terrific. A number of them called, and I just wanted to thank them, but I wanted to congratulate the other candidates, okay? Now that I got that over with.
You know, we were at the Trump watch party, which turned into a victory party, which means we had to go prowling through the Trump victory party crowd, and we found a few folks that were pretty excited.
You think it's like kind of a very pro-America? Is that kind of what you get a sense?
Yeah, I think he's trying to bring back the whole American attitude that was everybody had in the past, but now he's trying to bring that back, and it's really interesting to see.
So you guys, you think it's like more than just celebrity? You really think he can do the job?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so too. So.
Are you guys like registered like Republicans or?
It's our first time voting.
Yeah, first time. We're freshmen in college, so we just registered today.
Yep.
Oh my God!
First
It's exciting.
Today, and you voted then today.
We voted today.
Came
For
here.
Trump.
Yeah, we can't disclose who, but
But you're here.
I didn't even tell my parents who I voted for.
Well, now they know. No.
Now, on the other side, the Democrats. Hillary Clinton, we believe we have found her under a rock because she is not happy at all with the results. Bernie Sanders obviously winning by 20 plus points in New Hampshire. And here he is. Get ready to feel the burn.
Together, we have sent the message that will echo from Wall Street to Washington, from Maine to California. And that is that the government of our great country belongs to all of the people and not just a handful of wealthy campaign contributors and their super PACs.
All right, there he is, Bernie Sanders, talking like my uncle at a Seder. I love this guy. I mean, I love the way he talks. Let me put it that way. Socialist? I don't know about that. Now, Brody File commentary. Well, where do we begin with the commentary? Let's start with the Republicans. Donald Trump going to South Carolina. He's up almost 20 points. It is his race to lose in South Carolina, believe it or not. Yes, I know the evangelical electorate down there is 60% of primary voters, which you would think would be Ted Cruz country, but Donald Trump is doing very well. Now, we'll see, because Ted Cruz has a great ground game, and of course, he got evangelicals to mobilize in Iowa. He hopes to do the same in South Carolina. It is going to be knockdown, drag out in South Carolina. I'm grabbing popcorn as we speak. And as for the Democrats, look, it's on to Nevada and South Carolina, where Hillary Clinton does much better, especially with African-American voters. And so Bernie Sanders has some work to do. He's met with Al Sharpton. He's trying to reach out a little bit more, but he's going to get a bounce. I don't think there's any question from New Hampshire. And so then we see how much, is it just a bounce, or is it really this political revolution that he's talking about? All right, we're back with more from New Hampshire in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File here in New Hampshire. All right, look, Donald Trump did very well, obviously, up here in the Granite State. There's polling that shows that 64% of New Hampshire voters, actually Republican voters, actually agree with Donald Trump's call for a temporary ban on Muslims coming into the United States. This is what Donald Trump said just a few months ago.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on. We have no choice. We have no choice. We have no choice. According to Pew Research, among others, there is a great hatred toward Americans by large segments of the Muslim population.
Look, this has been a big winner, actually, for Donald Trump on the campaign trail. And of course, President Obama is calling out Donald Trump on his rhetoric. And now we know he has been visiting, he visited a mosque up in Baltimore. And with more on that, Jenny in the B Block, Jennifer Wishon.
It was a big deal when President Obama's motorcade pulled up to the Islamic Society just outside of Baltimore. Hand-picked Muslims from New York to LA scored a private talk with the president on what it's like to be Muslim in America.
Our television shows should have some Muslim characters that are unrelated to national security.
The president, who's drawn criticism for using words like violent extremism instead of radical Islam, says changing his words won't solve any problems.
This is not a clash of civilizations between the West and Islam. This is a struggle between the peace-loving, overwhelming majority of Muslims around the world and a radical, tiny minority.
He told Muslims they should never feel like they don't belong in the USA.
In these uncertain times, some of us might find ourselves doubting where we fit in this society. Personally, this visit by our president is an affirmation to all Muslims we are just as American as any other.
The president's mosque visit was timely as many Muslim Americans report feeling marginalized as concerns about the Islamic State grow. But security experts and even some Muslims wonder why the president chose this particular mosque.
For 17 years, you had an imam at this mosque who later became the regional director of an organization that was named by Treasury a specially designated terrorist organization that contributed funds to Osama bin Laden. I don't think he's ever been denounced. And you have, as I understand it, an imam serving there right now who has said things about homosexuality that I guarantee you, if those remarks had been said in a church or a synagogue, President Obama would not set foot there.
The mosque also has ties to groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, which have often been criticized by opponents of radical Islam. By choosing to visit it, May says the president may embolden such groups and frustrate Muslims working to root out Islamism, which is a movement to impose Sharia law and other Islamic traditions on the West. Improving relations between the U.S. and Muslim world has been a priority of President Obama from the beginning. Some would argue at the expense of how he's portrayed America.
I think a lot of Christians and others are a little bit disconcerted that he seems to have an apologetic tone about America towards Islam, as though America has mistreated Islam or Muslims, when in fact America is a land of great liberty and freedom for Muslims and for all people.
For a good part of his presidency, Obama has fought beliefs that he worships Allah.
Thomas Jefferson's opponents tried to stir things up by suggesting he was a Muslim, so I was not the first.
While he denounced Muslim bias, the president also told Muslims they have a duty to reject extreme ideologies.
To use a little Christian expression, let your light shine.
And if frustration sets in, he cautioned Muslims against choosing a life of extremism.
Don't respond to ignorance by embracing a worldview that suggests you must choose between your faith and your patriotism.
And as Americans continue to fight terrorism,
we are fighting an ideology that is based on a theology. And that we find that awkward.
Jenny in the B block and President Obama in the mosque. When we come back, Nick Adams, Australia. He's Australian, but he loves America, and he's got a new book out about political correctness. We talk with the author when we come back here in New Hampshire. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Look, we have a great interview for you. We love this guy. He's from Australia. He's got the accent. We want the accent, by the way. We'll actually pay for this accent. Nick Adams, author of a new book, and it's all about political correctness. There's the cover. Take a look at our conversation with Nick Adams here in New Hampshire about a very volatile and important topic. Well, here we are with Nick Adams. Nick, a pleasure to see you again, sir.
David Brody, the Brody File, always a pleasure.
We do like the publicity. Thank you, Nick, for doing that. We're going to re-loop that over and over.
Well, you should. You should. It sounds better in an Australian accent, of course.
That's right. Of course it does, and we'll work on that. Nick, tell me about the book. This is now your second book, and you really have made a mark with a lot of what you're talking about regarding American politics and this political correctness, if you will, about American politics. Tell me a little bit about the book.
Yeah, well, David, Retaking America, Crushing Political Correctness is a book for anybody that loves America and hates political correctness. And the book says that every single problem in America today is in some way related to political correctness. So whether we're talking about open borders, gun control ambitions, receding Christianity in the world, a diminished America on the world stage, burgeoning government debt, unsustainable government growth, all of these things in some way are connected to political correctness. And that's why I believe there's no greater moral imperative than crushing this culturally totalitarian thug that is political correctness.
You would think that Donald Trump would like to read a book like this because, boy, that's what his campaign seems to be all about, especially the way he's talking about these issues.
Well, that's right, David. 2016 has seen the rise of the anti-PC politician, really on both sides. And I think that that's a reaction to everyday, ordinary Americans feeling sick and tired of being made to feel like moral lepers in their own country. You know, it was once upon a time that communists couldn't get a job if they were in some way related to communism, or if they had some family connection or association with communism. The tables have completely turned, and conservatives have become the new communists, and they're losing their jobs, they're missing out on opportunities, all for holding a traditional view on marriage or not necessarily subscribing to climate change. And these are things that have got to change, because the green gay gospel is not really, I think, what America is all about. What America is all about is freedom. It's not about intellectual and moral Lilliputians trying to bully us into silence, to force us into conformity. And I think that everyday ordinary Americans, David, need to step up, stand up, and punch the bully in the nose that is political correctness.
You mentioned, that's interesting, you mentioned moral lepers, because it does seem like the roles have been reversed in society today, and I'm wondering if the book talks about some of the social issues as it relates to marriage and what's going on culturally in this country.
It does, it most certainly does, David. You know, Retaking America, Crushing Political Correctness looks at all of those hot button issues that political correctness has really, it's developed a narrative around those issues, and anybody that dares to deviate from those that narrative is all of a sudden castigated, humiliated, pummeled. And it's not right, it's not fair, and it's profoundly un-American. I mean, there is nothing more anti-American, nothing more antithetical to America's foundational principles than political correctness. And it's why, you know, I'm really confident and optimistic, hopeful, David, that America can really crush this beast, because the rest of the world's too far gone. Whether you want to look at England or Canada or Australia or Western Europe, there are enough people with patriotic bloodlines and backbone in America to beat this.
You mentioned Australia, and there are many American historians, American political science professors that have written books, but here you are from Australia writing a book about American politics, if you will, and the byproduct of what's come out of that. What is your unique angle, would you say, for folks that are reading your books that they might be able to glean from your writings rather than maybe someone else's?
Well, David, you know, everybody's got an investment in America. It doesn't matter who you are, what colour you are, what you believe, where you live. Everybody's got an investment in America, because what's good for America is good for the world. When America is strong, the world is strong. When America is weak, as we've seen over the last few years, the world becomes a very dangerous place. And right now, obviously, we're in 2016 and presidential politics, and many Americans don't realise that the President of the United States is not merely the President of the United States. He or she is the President of the entire world. And that's why people really should have a look and think about somebody that's looking at it from the outside and saying, hey, this is what's happened in other countries. I've seen it, I've lived it. America is on this course. And you've got to change desperately and quickly. It's time to retake America. It's time to crush political correctness. No time like the present.
Right, and the consequences of not retaking America, what are the consequences of giving in to political correctness?
David, doesn't even bear thinking about. I mean, we're really talking, and it's not possible to hype this up. It's not possible to hyperventilate about this. This is deadly serious. Political correctness sucks. Political correctness kills. And political correctness will see the end of humanity as we know it. It has already kneecapped Western civilization. America is the beacon of the free world. It is the most exceptional nation in the history of the world. The Constitution is the best political document ever written. The United States military is the finest fighting force mankind has ever known. But all of those things, family, faith, flag and neighbourhood, stand to be completely changed if America doesn't step up to retake America and to crush political correctness.
Two last questions. What is the charge in this book to readers? What do you want them to kind of not only take away, but from an action point standpoint, what do you want them to do?
Yeah, David, look, this book maps out a very clear path to what Americans need to do. It tells them that they need to study the enemy. We need to understand what the left and politically correct advocates do, what they're likely to say, how they're going to pivot. Because in order to defeat the enemy, we need to understand and know the enemy as well as they know themselves. I'm calling on people in my book, David, to step up and to engage in the culture war. I know it's easy and very tempting to simply turn off the television or the radio station when somebody's on there that you don't like, but we can't afford to do that. We need to know what's going on. I want to get young Americans into teaching jobs and into media jobs, because that's where the change can happen. Because we need to recapture our classrooms and our newsrooms.
Last question, your state of the race, if you will. You see Donald Trump out there, Ted Cruz, both pretty bold, both, the Washington cartel. Ted Cruz talks a lot about that. Donald Trump, obviously, throwing political correctness on its fanny out the window. What do you make of what's going on?
Well, David, I think the world needs to use either its Trump card or a cruise missile. I think that they're really the two candidates that are most likely to win, and I think that they would do great things to restore health to the American nation and to crush political correctness. I think anybody would be better than either of the two Democratic contenders when it comes to political correctness and the things that I talk about in my book. And I hope that America gets it right, because I can tell you right now, people in Australia aren't sleeping well because of this President Obama's inability to sufficiently defend us and protect us from radical Islam. So the stakes are very high. We need to get it right. America needs to get it right. God bless America.
Nick Adams, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dad.
Nick Adams here on the Brody File. All right, when we come back, Amber C. Strong morphing into pop-political when it comes to endorsements. We explain who's winning that endorsement race when we come back from New Hampshire. And welcome back, everybody, from snowy, cold New Hampshire. We actually miss now the stuffy old studio because it's warm in there. Time for Pop-Political. Amber C. Strong, our producer, always out and about. You never know where she is. I don't know. She's always swanky. She's hip. And she's going to give us the lowdown on endorsements in this Republican and Democrat primary season.
First up for Senator Ted Cruz, we have Rick Perry.
Ted is the leader that we need to reignite the promise of America.
Phil Robertson.
My qualifications for President of the United States are rather narrow. Is he or she godly? Does he or she love us? Can he or she do the job? And finally, would they kill a duck and put him in a pot and make him a good duck gumbo?
And of course, Glenn Beck.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the first Hispanic president of the United States, Mr. Ted Cruz.
In Donald Trump's corner, we have Jerry Falwell Jr., another member of the Robertson crew, Willie Robertson, and Sarah Palin.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be in Iowa. We're here just thawing out.
On the Democrat side, Bernie Sanders nabbed the endorsements of Susan Sarandon, Dr. Cornel West, rapper Killer Mike, Neil Young, and Occupy Wall Street. Supporters for Hillary Clinton include Selma Hayek, Kerry Washington, the New York Times, and the coveted Des Moines Register.
Amber C. Strong with Pop-Political and endorsements. All right, when we come back from New Hampshire, a look ahead to South Carolina and a little bit more analysis from the Brody File because we're a bit narcissistic. So we'll talk some more. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File from New Hampshire. As we head to South Carolina, two storylines to watch. Trump versus Cruz. It's going to get nasty, and South Carolina has a history of nasty politics. And Bush versus Rubio versus Kasich. Bush says he's going to throw the kitchen sink at Rubio and Kasich. Oh, my goodness. Excedrin moment. We're going to be watching and grabbing the popcorn. That's it from New Hampshire, everybody. Until next time, God bless. Have a great week.